Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Janabalaba Girivaridari. Gopi Janabalaba Girivaridari. Yasodanandana Brajajanarandana. Yasodanandana Brajajanarandana. Yamunatira Vanachari. Yamunatira Vanachari. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 14, Text 11. Continuation of the discussion between Sukadeva Goswami, Maharaj Parikshit. Sukadeva Goswami is directly instructing Maharaj Parikshit about how the trappings of the material energy and what happens with the conditioned soul forgets their eternal identity as spirit and identifies with matter and the temporary material body as the self. So, text 11. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Sometimes the conditioned soul is very aggrieved by the chastisement of his enemies and government servants who use harsh words against him directly or indirectly. At that time, his heart and ears become very saddened. Such chastisement may be compared to the sounds of owls and crickets. Prabhupada's commentary. There are different types of enemies within this material world. The government chastises one due to not paying income tax. Such criticism, direct or indirect, saddens one. Sometimes the conditioned soul tries to counteract that chastisement. Unfortunately, he cannot do anything. This is government that's not Daivi Varnashram government. This is materialistic government where the administrators actually do not know the actual goal of life and really do not have the best interest of the citizens at heart. And when they exact taxes, they're actually taking that money and those assets for their own personal use, because it doesn't really go back into the welfare, for the welfare of the citizens. So the conditioned soul, he's working for that money, he's attached to wants to enjoy it himself, and he's not allowed to, because they come and they take it away. So it's miserable for everyone. For the conditioned soul who's working hard to accumulate the money, thinking he's going to enjoy the results of his fruit of work, he's going to enjoy sense gratification. And for those that are in illusion, thinking that they're going to enjoy the money by stealing it from him. So it's cheaters and the cheated. When really everything belongs to Krishna, and everyone is a servant of Krishna. We're all spirit, we're not matter. And the duty of government is to see to the welfare of the citizens, that they're engaged nicely in service, and that they have what they need materially, so they can be peaceful. And in a peaceful state of mind, feeling satisfied, be able to curb the senses and practice devotional service to the Lord. But in this case, there's nothing but distress is created, because both parties, the governmental administrators and the hardworking citizenry, they're all identifying with wanting to enjoy the fruit. One is wanting to enjoy it by his own hard efforts, which he can't do, he's not allowed to do. And the other wants to enjoy it by stealing it from him and calling it their service as government. It's not a very good program if you want to be happy. Takes 12. No, actually, Daivi Varnashram administrators, they also exact taxes. But taking direction from the Brahmins, who are qualified spiritual leaders, then the administrators, they're able to rule nicely using whatever taxes they exact, and they don't overly tax the citizens. They take a certain amount, and it's used for everyone's welfare. It's used to help protect the citizens from enemies of their state, of their government, demoniac rulers who may be nearby, who want to steal from them, as the stealing is going on. Who wants to take? Nothing belongs to anyone, and everyone's trying to take everything. So it's all a bunch of thieves. So the government, the Daivi Varnashram government, in the service of the Lord, they will have to maintain some sort of a protective military. So they need to be funded and provided for. They need their weapons and their housing and their food and like this, because that's their service, is to protect the citizens from these demoniac forces who are trying to steal from them while they're trying to do their service to God, to Krishna. And also there's public welfare work that goes on, utilities, roadways, things that benefit the citizens, access to water, things that everyone uses. So government does exact taxes, but it's different when it's guided by devotional service to the Lord. That type of government is different. And that wasn't what was being described in this verse. Text 12. Due to his pious activities in previous lives, the conditioned soul attains material facilities in this life. But when they're finished, he takes shelter of wealth and riches, which cannot help him in this life or the next. Because of this, he approaches the living dead who possess these things. Such people are compared to impure trees, creepers, and poisonous wells. Wow, I'm seeing a little bit of how the karma plays out. It says, due to his pious activities in previous lives, the conditioned soul attains material facilities in this life. So he uses up, he gets some good karmic results from pious activities, auspicious activities in previous lives. But he's born into this life in ignorance. He doesn't understand that that's how he got the things. It was from a previous life. He did some pious activities, auspicious things, that got him a good result. So he's born with that, and he attains those material facilities in this life. But he uses them up. He doesn't build on it, he just uses them up. He just enjoys them and tries to take shelter of his wealth and riches. But it gets used up, and it doesn't really help him in this life, and it really doesn't improve his position at all for the next life. So he's just using up the results of his pious activities. It can be that like that for groups of people also, nations, under good guidance and whatever. There can be everything goes along very nicely materially. But the tendency is for the conditioned souls to simply just enjoy all the good results. And when it's used up, they haven't accumulated any more good pious activities because they were so busy enjoying sense gratification. And in the process of indulging in sense gratification, accumulating some bad karma, some bad reactions are coming, which happens when just one engages unrestrictedly in sense gratification. They're bound to inconvenience others. And their activities, we learned in the previous verses, are all witnessed by the demigods. So the illicit sex and the gambling and the uncontrolled eating everything and anything and everyone, living entities inconveniencing other living creatures unnecessarily just for satisfying the tongue. And speaking bogus philosophies about the goal of life, misleading others, making a business out of misleading others about the goal of life and about nature of the self and who God is. So the reactions for those things, you get some bad karma. Because of this, he approaches the living dead who possess these things. It's interesting, it's described here, the living dead. I think one time Prabhupada was in a crowd of people, may have been at the airport, one of the airports, and he made a comment, a side comment to one of the disciples and said, looked around at all the people, said, do you know what I see when I look around? And the disciples wanted to hear what Prabhupada was going to say because he was going to share something with him. He said, I see flapping dead bodies. Because without the soul, the spirit soul, in touch with the divine energy, the devotional energy, the eternal energy, whatever movements are going on, whatever activities are going on, are simply under the three modes of material nature, which is birth and death. It's simply being enacted on the material platform. Because the real life is the spirit. That's the real life. So all the activities and all the, like Prabhupada says, zoom, zoom in the cars, zoom, zoom back and forth. He made another comment about the cars. They were near a highway or there was a lot of traffic where he was. And he said, So what's the difference? The dog is running on 4 legs, and the man is running on 4 wheels. What's the difference? So the conditioned soul, his resources run out. He uses up the benefits of whatever good karma he may have accumulated in previous lives that he's not even aware of. And then he approaches these living dead who possess riches and wealth. How do they have the possession? Because they got it from their previous life. They did some pious activities. He's already used his up. They're in the process of using theirs up. So he goes to them to try and get some more. So Prabhupada, so the verse here, Maharaj Sukadeva Goswami compares those kinds of people to impure trees, creepers, and poisonous wells. They want to suck. they want to. Sense gratification is not satisfied. They used up their own resources. Now they're going to see who they can, like a leech, who they can suck some juice out of. Poisonous wells. What happens if you drink from a poisonous well? You die. So they have nothing to give. They have no life to give of their own. Creepers. Prabhupada's commentary. The wealth and riches acquired through previous pious activities should not be misused for sense gratification. Enjoying them for sense gratification is like enjoying the fruits of a poisonous tree. Such activities will not help the conditioned soul in any way, neither in this life nor in the next. However, if one engages his possessions in the service of the Lord, under the guidance of a proper spiritual master, he will attain happiness, both in this life and the next. Unless he does so, he eats a forbidden apple and thereby loses his paradise. Whoa, there's a little reference, indirect reference to the Old Testament, Adam and Eve. Enjoying the fruits and not using them for serving the Lord, and then he loses his paradise. So the Adam and Eve, from that teaching, from that culture, they were not to take the fruits of that tree. It was one tree. They could enjoy everything else with the sanction of the Lord, but there was one tree that the Lord asked them not to try to enjoy the fruits of. Must have been the fruits of sense gratification. And try to enjoy the fruits of their own work, which was meant for serving the Lord, and try to enjoy it. Try to taste. Outside of serving the Lord in devotion. And then we know from there they could not stay in paradise. They had to go out and work and try to enjoy the fruits of their own activities and all their generations. Lord Krishna therefore advises that one's possessions should be given unto him. Yat karosi, yat asnasi, yat juhosi, dadasi yat, yat tapasyasi kanteya, tat kurosva madarpanam. Son of Kunti, all that you do, all that you eat, all that you offer and give away, as well as all austerities that you may perform, should be done as an offering unto me. All that you do, all that you eat, all that you offer and give away, as well as austerities you might perform, should be done as an offering to me. Material wealth and opulence attained through previous pious activities can be fully utilized for one's benefit in this life and the next, if one is Krishna conscious. One should not try to possess more than he needs for the bare necessities. If he gets more than is needed, the surplus should be fully engaged in the Lord's service. That will make the conditioned soul, the world, and Krishna happy, and this is the aim of life. One should not try to possess more than he needs for the bare necessities. It's not about accumulating anything in the material world. So to keep it simple is best. And when you become happy in Krishna consciousness, awareness of Krishna, then the drive to try to become happy through material energy subsides. In contact with the devotional energy, hearing, chanting, serving, worshiping, praying, serving the lotus feet, making friends with the Lord, and offering everything to the Lord, like this verse, all that you do, offering everything to the Lord, then the Lord within the heart becomes accessible by the devotional, through the devotional activities, the devotional energy. And then the material desires back off. Because what do we want? We want to be happy. If we identify with the material body, we're going to try to be happy through material activities, which means you need facilities in the material nature, and then you have to work hard and try to enjoy, and that whole cycle starts. And then the modes of material nature come, and then forgetfulness of spirit, soul. Trying to be happy through the senses, material, body, mind. But when one gets a taste, a higher taste of devotional service, it is an energy of the Lord, just like material nature, earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, false ego, are the material energies, both gross and subtle, and we know what those are. We're very familiar with those. Well, the Lord has other energies. That's not the only energy. He has other energies, and those other energies are actually superior to the material energy. Material energy is an inferior energy. It's temporary, and it's a source of misery when the soul is in contact with it. The Lord's divine energy, his devotional energy, is the foundation of the spiritual world. And it's variegated, very variegated. And everything is personal, so the energy isn't really an it. The energy of the Lord is actually a personality, just like the Lord is a personality. Well, his energy is also personality. His devotional energy, his divine energy. So, in contact with the divine energy of the Lord, this drive to possess more and more, it gets in the way. Who wants to spend their time doing that if they're fortunate enough to get a taste for the spiritual energy, the divine energy, the devotional energy? And we say, Jai Aradhe. It's the embodiment, perfection of the Lord's devotional energy. As we say, Radha Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram. It's the devotional energy of the Lord. It's the pleasure potency of the Lord. His devotional energy is his pleasure potency. So you come in contact with the pleasure potency of the Lord, then and have somehow or other to deal with a material body, you only deal with it minimally, just the bare necessities. And the real pleasure, the real enjoyment is the devotional energy, not the material energy. So is it by experiencing a higher taste. And that is being made available. That's the Sankirtan movement of Lord Chaitanya. He's making that available very easily. But his prayer, Shikshastaka, invested all your potencies in your holy name alone, and there's no hard and fast rules for chanting, but I'm so unfortunate. I have no taste. So that's what we need to get, is a taste. And then the taste for putting our energy into material endeavors there won't be any taste there because we're experiencing a higher taste. So we practice controlling the senses, purifying the senses, hearing the messages of Godhead, taking association with those that are more advanced than us, either through their books or if we have the good opportunity to meet an advanced devotee. And we make friends with those on the same level. We share our insights and our struggles. We cheer each other on, those of us on the same level of advancement. And those that are struggling to make some advancement who may not be as enlightened, try to help them along. Encourage them, enliven them. Give them association. So that's going on. And that is the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Hare Krishna. Text 13. Sometimes, to mitigate distresses in this forest of the material world, the conditioned soul receives cheap blessings from atheists. He then loses all intelligence in their association. This is exactly like jumping in a shallow river. As a result, one simply breaks his head. He's not able to mitigate his sufferings from the heat, and in both ways he suffers. The misguided, conditioned soul also approaches so-called sadhus and swamis who preach against the principles of the Vedas. He does not receive benefit from them, either in the present or in the future. Yeah, it's like he's kissing a lot of frogs before he can find the prince. That's old fable. I wonder if that's where this came from. It's trying to find a bona fide spiritual master. Kissing the princess, she was trying to find a prince. And she was told that if she kissed a certain frog, he would turn into a prince. So She was going around kissing all these frogs. So the conditioned soul, he's like that. He's trying to find who can help me. And he's ending up with all these frogs. So to mitigate distress in the forest of the material world, receives cheap blessings from atheists. Yeah, atheism has its appeal for the conditioned soul because you don't have to do anything. You don't have to bow down to anyone. You can still think that you're in control and you're the doer. And generally, atheists present a very moral, that in order for the world to be peaceful and happy, then there should be morality. You don't need God, you just need morality. Do the right thing. Like that, generally. And so he receives cheap blessings from atheists. Yeah, if you're just moral and do the right thing, you'll be just fine. And then, so he loses his intelligence. Stops inquiring. If he accepts something like that as the ultimate, then there's no depth there. He's not going to get out of the material entanglement that way. He might end up doing some more pious activities, and then in his next birth, repeat the cycle all over again that he just went through, have some riches and wealth, and then use them all up, and then there he is again. And this can go on and on and on, lifetime after lifetime. Bhagavatam says it's exactly like jumping in a shallow river. Simply breaks his head. He doesn't get any sufferings from the heat. He was looking to find a nice deep pond or lake or river to dive in to get some relief, to get revitalized, refreshed. Instead, he hits his head on the bottom because it's shallow. He breaks his head. No relief from the heat, and now he's got a broken head on top of it. And so he's inquiring. He's going to different ones. Now he's going, the misguided soul. He may also approach sadhus and swamis who preach against the Vedas. Again, he still doesn't really have to surrender, and doesn't get the idea of sense control and the ultimate goal of life. He's still stuck in a material concept by approaching these these unqualified people. So, Prabhupada's commentary. Cheaters are always there to manufacture their own way of spiritual realization. To get some material benefit, the conditioned soul approaches these pseudo-sannyasis and yogis for cheap blessings. But he does not receive any benefit from them, either spiritual or material. Yeah. Because he's not sincere. All he wants is, he still wants material things. So who can help me with getting my material happiness back? So he's coming in contact with people that are willing to cheat him. And they don't just instruct, they want money too. You have to pay for this and that and the other thing, and give to support these pseudo-sannyasis and yogis, because that's how they make their living. They don't really help the person, but they will take their money. In this age, there are many cheaters who show some jugglery and magic. They even create gold to amaze their followers, and their followers accept them as God. Yeah. People are very much attracted to these quote-unquote miracles. Produce some gold. A golden egg comes out of his mouth. Or these different miracles. People are very much enamored by magic and miracles, supernatural. But how does it help anyone? Who really cares about all these miracles? Just somebody can do these things by mystic potency, or magicians. Magicians can do these things. Just ordinary magicians can do all kinds of things. But even if there is some mystic potency there, mystic power, what good is it? Who cares? It's still birth and death. It's still on the material platform. It's just empowered mystical manipulation of the material energy. Best thing is just not to be involved in the material energy, only just to maintain the body, and the rest of the time engage in devotional service. So they see this magic and they become razzle-dazzled. And they think the person who can do these things is probably God. How foolish. How silly. How very silly. Very, very silly. Very childish. It's unfortunate. How will they ever make contact with their own actual spiritual nature? How will they ever be able to recognize the Lord sitting in their heart if they're razzle-dazzled by a magician pulling rabbits out of a hat? Very bewildering. Very bewildering. Prabhupada's commentary continued. This type of cheating is very prominent in Kali Yuga. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur describes the real guru in this way. Samsara dava nanalita loka trinaya karanya ganaganatvam bhaktasya kayana gananavasya vande garoshi charanaravindam. One should approach a guru who can extinguish the blazing fire of this material world, the struggle for existence. People want to be cheated, and therefore they go to yogis and swamis who play tricks. But tricks do not mitigate the miseries of material life. Even being able to manufacture gold, if being able to manufacture gold is a criteria for becoming God, then why not accept Krishna, the proprietor of the entire universe, wherein there are countless tons of gold? As mentioned before, the color of gold is compared to the will-o'-the-wisp, or yellow stool. Therefore, one should not be allured by gold manufacturing gurus, but should sincerely approach a devotee like Jad Bharat. Jad Bharat instructed Rahugana Maharaj so well that the king was relieved from the bodily conception. One cannot be happy by accepting a false guru. A guru should be accepted as advised in Srimad Bhagavatam. Tasmat gurum prapadyeta jignasu shreya uttamam. One should approach a bona fide guru to inquire about the highest benefit of life. Such a guru is described as follows. Sabde pare cha nishnatam. Such a guru does not manufacture gold or juggle words. He is well versed in the conclusions of Vedic knowledge. Vedaischa savaira hameva beja. He's freed from all material contamination, fully engaged in Krishna's service. If one is able to obtain the dust of the lotus feet of such a guru, his life will become successful. Otherwise, he is baffled, both in this life and in the next. So that's the key. That's it right there. is got to find that guru. Have to find that person and take shelter of him. It says, if one is able to obtain the dust of the lotus feet of such a guru, his life becomes successful. Otherwise, he's baffled, both in this life and the next. He's remain on the mental platform. What the guru does is they bring one in contact with the devotional energy because they are the embodiment of the devotional energy, because of their own full absorption in devotional service to the Lord. So they bring the conditioned soul, who's fortunate enough to take advantage of that kind of association, they bring them into contact with the devotional energy, which then awakens and becomes active within them. They link up. That's how they link up through the divine energy of the Lord. That's how we link up. And Krishna says in the Gita, only by undivided devotional service can I be understood as I am, standing before you. So the pure devotee spiritual master, Krishna is fully manifest in them through their devotional service to the Lord. Krishna is directing them from within. So they are as good as Krishna in that sense. And only by undivided devotional service can I be understood as I am, standing before you. So such a spiritual master is freed from all material contamination, is fully engaged in Krishna's service. He's well versed in the conclusions of Vedic knowledge, Vedaischa Sarvara Hameva Vedya. He's not making magic tricks, manufacturing gold, or juggling words. He's not doing those things. So, Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement is empowered those that come in contact with Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement, come in contact with the sincere followers of Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan, and they can come in contact with that divine energy, either through the sincere followers of the pure devotee spiritual master, or they're fortunate to have direct contact with the pure devotee spiritual master. But coming into contact with the followers, sincere followers of a pure devotee spiritual master, that carries the potency also. Servant of the servant of the servant, many, 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 many times removed. So in this way, the tidal wave of Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan is building. So, going to the next verse. Text 14. In this material world, when the conditioned soul cannot arrange for his own maintenance, despite exploiting others, he tries to exploit his own father or son, taking away that relative's possessions, although they may be very insignificant. If he cannot acquire things from his father, son, or other relatives, he's prepared to give them all kinds of trouble. Wow. Conditioned soul is desperate. Can't arrange. He's not able to arrange for his own maintenance, even though he tried to exploit others. So then he turns to his family members. Takes away their possessions. Even though the possessions may be very insignificant, he'll take them away. Oh. Now, someone in the mode of ignorance who's having trouble with things like drugs and alcohol, you see it all the time. They'll steal from their mother. They'll open her purse and take her rent money out, take her grocery money out, and go down the street to try to maintain themselves. And that's in the mode of ignorance. And sometimes people arrange to have a family member murdered so they can get the insurance policy. It's ruthless. The material world is ruthless. It's ruthless. If people think that they're their bodies, they'll do anything. If they think, and there's no God, they'll do anything to get away with whatever they can get away with. It's, Prabhupada said it's not a fit place for a gentleman, or we could say for a lady or a gentleman. It's definitely not a fit place. And then if he can't get, and then we see, when a relative passes away and they have a will, and they do have some significant assets, then very, very often the family members all fight over who's going to get what. And they try to cut each other out of as much as they can so they can have more for them. Oh my goodness. Ugh. How on earth find any happiness in those kinds of mentalities and those kinds of dealings? It's no happiness. Actually, Arjuna was such a great devotee. He had the opportunity to try to get the kingdom and to fight in this war with his relatives, his cousins, the Duryodhana and the Kurus. And he said, what use is it? What if I fight and I get this kingdom, then what use is it? And he wasn't able to maintain because Duryodhana had given him so much difficulty, and he had the qualities of a Kshatriya. He needed to be able to manage something. That was his innate motive. Under the modes, that was his innate activity, material nature. And he wasn't able to maintain himself. He had no kingdom. That Duryodhana told him, no, I won't even give you enough land you can put through an eye of a pin. So, there. And so he had no way to maintain himself. But he's a devotee of Krishna. So he suggested to Krishna that instead of trying to take away the possessions of the Kurus, even though they have unrightfully taken possession, which really belongs to us, the Pandavas, and they've stolen it, but even so, they have it, and they're maintaining the kingdom. And I don't even want to try and take that away, even though it doesn't even belong to them. It actually belongs to us, the Pandavas. But I don't want to fight over it. I'll just go to the forest and I'll eat roots and berries for the rest of my life, and then that'll be it. How could I possibly be happy taking things away from my own relatives? She's a devotee. But Krishna said, no, the Pandavas, I want them to maintain the kingdom. Yudhisthira, and you and your brothers, you are the devotees. For the benefit of the citizens, I want the devotees. And it is also your rightful inheritance. They've stolen it, you have to fight with them. the part about taking away from relatives, because it doesn't apply here. But Arjuna had that sense of, well, I don't want to disturb my relatives. I don't want to give them any trouble. Let them have it. Who cares? Like Krishna said, no. Prabhupada's commentary. Once we actually saw a distressed man steal ornaments from his daughter just to maintain himself. As the English proverb goes, necessity knows no law. When a conditioned soul needs something, he forgets relationship with his relatives and exploits his own father or son. We also receive information from Srimad Bhagavatam that in this age of Kali, the time is quickly approaching when a relative will kill another relative for a small farthing. Without Krishna consciousness, people will deteriorate further and further into a hellish condition whereat they will perform abominable acts. It's hard to imagine it getting much worse, but it will. Without Krishna consciousness, and as resources become more and more scarce because of the mismanagement of the natural resources, it will get worse. What is it they say? Necessity knows no law. And there's one news commentator in the alternative media. He likes to say, another way of describing that is, when there's nothing left to lose, people lose it. In other words, necessity knows no law. When there's nothing left to lose, people lose it. It's very true. If they're not Krishna conscious. So that's what's coming in the Kali Yuga. There is described that there's a slight reprieve. For several thousand years there'll be a little breather space before the real onset of Kali Yuga, due to this propagation of Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan. There's a little bit of a reprieve. So the full onslaught of the Kali Yuga is being held back by the Sankirtan. But when that winds down, then the full onslaught will come, and it's going to be unimaginable if we think it's bad now. It's said that the fruits and the vegetables will be mostly seed and pod. There'll be very little bit of fruit to actually, for nourishment, for eating. Like, say, like a mango, it already has a big seed. Well, that pit is going to be gigantic, and there'll just be a little bit of fruit, or if there are even mangoes. And the same with the other fruits, the peaches. The pit will be gigantic, and there's just a little bit of fruit on the outside, like that. So even the fruits and the vegetables, and they'll actually disappear toward the end of Kali Yuga. They can't even grow anymore. And it's just one living entity eating another. I mean, there's no vegetation, so it's the ones that walk around, the other types of living entities, the fish, the birds, the people. There'll just be no vegetables to eat, so, and there'll be cannibalism also. That's toward the very end. They're talking thousands of years, but it's a gradual degradation, and we're seeing the beginning of it, even now. But we can't even imagine where it's going. People will be, if a person lives to like 20 years, they're considered a grand old man. And physical stature is described will be reduced to, 2 or 3 feet tall, something like that. And there will be no devotional service available. And then the incarnation of the Lord comes and wipes the slate clean and starts over again into the Satya Yuga, the enlightened age. So the exact details of how that is taking place, we don't have access to, but we've got the general picture. So you don't really want to be around for that. We have the opportunity to go back home and not have to take part in that situation. And as many people as possible can come in contact with Lord Chaitanya Sankirtan, then they'll be on their way of avoiding this huge catastrophe also. But that's what's coming. It's one of the seasons. It's like a winter. It's like a winter season. Yeah. Text 15. In this world, family life is exactly like a blazing fire in the forest. There is not the least happiness, and gradually one becomes more and more implicated in unhappiness. In household life, there's nothing favorable for perpetual happiness. Being implicated in home life, the conditioned soul is burned by the fire of lamentation. Sometimes he condemns himself as being very unfortunate, and sometimes he claims that he suffers because he performed no pious activities in his previous life. Now again, this is materialistic family life. This is not the ashram, the grihastha ashram, where the devotees are living together, working, supporting the temples, supporting the preaching, raising nice children, offering food, trying to become Krishna conscious. That's something else. That's an ashram. What we're talking about here is simply centered around sex life and sense gratification, trying to live together and be happy. Good luck. Prabhupada says it's exactly like a blazing fire in the forest. He says there is not the least happiness. Whoa! One becomes more and more implicated in unhappiness. That's without God consciousness, without Krishna consciousness. Burned by the fire of lamentation. So what's lamentation? Lamentation means hankering for something that they don't have, or being miserable and depressed over something they had and they lost. So hankering and lamenting something that was lost, the fire of lamentation. Prabhupada's commentary. In the Gurvastika, Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has sung. Prabhupada again quotes that verse that is sung every morning in the temples. Samsaradava nanavida loka trinayakaranaganaganavam. A life in this material world is exactly like a blazing forest fire. No one goes to set fire to the forest, yet the fire takes place. Similarly, everyone wants to be happy in the material world, but the miserable conditions of material life simply increase. Sometimes a person caught in the blazing fire of material existence condemns himself, but due to his bodily conception, he cannot get out of the entanglement, and thus he suffers more and more. Enter into family life because they want to be happy. But instead of actually becoming happy, the materialistic conditioned souls find themselves in the middle of a forest fire, of burning, what is it? Burning desires that are never really satisfied. There we go with the more and more and more, because it's the nature of sense gratification. It's never really satisfied. And it's like pouring gasoline on a fire to put it out. If there's some sex desire, and then try to satisfy it. It seems to go down for a little while, satisfied, and then it flares up even worse next time. And then pretty soon it's just blazing all the time, like blazing forest fire. And one is in complete forgetfulness of their own serene, blissful, non-material nature, and is totally identifying with this forest fire of material sense gratification desires. It just keeps burning and burning, and the more they put on it, the more it burns. And you're just building the fire, not putting it out. The way you put a fire out is you don't give it any fuel. Or you smother it with something else. So you don't feed it. I'm going to put this fire out by feeding it. No, it's going to burn more. But because a person is still stuck in the bodily concept, he can't get out of the entanglement. He suffers more and more. So, by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement, it's being made available on the planet. Come in contact with the followers of Lord Chaitanya who are carrying this message of love of Godhead and are making the devotional energy available. That's why hearing the chanting from the lips of a pure devotee has special effect. But to hear it from the lips of a materialist, it can be disastrous, because they're putting some poison in there along with it can cause a problem. Prabhupada says it's poisonous effect. So we have to hear from the sincere followers of the pure devotee of the Lord. And come in contact with the divine energy, and then it opens up for us. Everything opens up. We begin to realize internally, it's realized knowledge from inside. You awaken. The Lord is there. You begin to become conscious of His presence and our own spiritual nature. So, Maharaj Parikshit and Sukadeva Goswami Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavatam translation and commentaries Ki Jai.